Wrong IP address from DHCP client on Ubuntu 18.04. I'm experiencing a weird issue where my Ubuntu 18.04 server box gets issued a wrong IP address during boot from the DHCP server. Running client after boot on the interface results in the right IP being added to the interface. The DHCP server is a Windows box where a reservation was manually configured using the MAC address shown by IP address in Ubuntu, without colons. My 50 caught in networking.cfg, cloud init CFG. Journal pull entries for DHCP. Manually calling client after login, verbose. .10.10.10.10 is the correct DHCP server, and 10.10.10.40 is the IP configured on it. On the Windows DHCP, the wrong lease, .162, shows a long unique ID that does not contain any MAC address present on the Ubuntu box, 032-827-C000200011D0FC617-58A43. What's the right way to avoid this? Deny leases for the long UID. Where does that UID come from in the first place? The NIC is on board in a Dell PowerEdge R710 server.
The cause of the problem is that the built-in network config of Ubuntu 18.04 no longer uses the NIC MAC address as the default ID for DHCP requests. The traditional, and I believe sensible, behavior can be restored by adding DHCP identifier colon MAC to the configuration and the /etc/netplan/30 yum cloud init file as follows. Where NIC device name is the name of your network device. Used to try the new configuration. If you get any errors, please note that precise indentation is very important in YAML files.
Denying the lease won't work. There's no way networks could know why it's being denied, so it won't just magically switch to a different ID type if you do so. You have to do that manually. If your systemd version is recent enough and if you have direct control over the config files written out by Cloud Init, you can tell systemd network to send a MAC address-based client ID via the .network file. But if you know that systemd networked will always be used, you can just assign the correct lease to client ID 032E827C0002000AB11D0FC617-58A43, because that's what systemd networked will always send for that machine. It generates the ID based on /etc/machine ID. Most DHCP clients, including client, supply a client ID field of type 01, MAC based. Another common type is 00, domain name. However, by default, systemd network supplies an opaque client ID that was generated from the contents of /etc/machine ID. According to the DHCP protocol, Leases are chosen by client ID first, as long as the client supplies a client ID option, which may or may not be MAC-based, then by the MAC address only if the client didn't send an ID. So when you're configuring a reservation, all good DHCP servers will allow you to enter either the client ID or the MAC address. If you enter just the MAC address, then I suppose that a typo 1, MAC-based, client ID is automatically implied. There may be a checkbox named Ignore Client ID, which is convenient for you but technically violates the DHCP spec. For example, I have two Wi-Fi adapters with different MACs, but I've configured the OS to send the same client ID no matter which adapter is connected. This way I get the same address via both.
On Sphere it has been noted that, if a template contains the machine ID then any VMS clone from the template gets same IP as DHCP use the machine ID not the MAC address. Solution is to remove the machine ID from the file /etc/machine ID in the template so new machine ID generated during the cloning.
If you want to support our channel, please consider subscribing.